I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
And what a day it's going to be. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network, 2 miles east of the Bill Mill, the locus of evil on the entire left coast, the Capitol building in Sacramento, Fornicalia, where later on tonight, despite the election, I can tell you for a fact, I'll be smelling the terrible stench. Brimstone, sulfur, it'll be terrible. You got a belly up to the bar, we've kept your seat, and it's great to see you back. Biff is going to be your bartender tonight. He pours with the best of them. And the lava lamp is in fact lighted to my left, your right. That indicates that you can listen and chat at shrmedia.com. But you can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page, the SHR Media YouTube channel, and the SHR Media Group Periscope page. All of these we provide to you as incredible conveniences today. Just think of them as modern appliances. You can go out and chop wood, or you could listen to the show. And what a really big shoe it's going to be tonight. But I got to say this. We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free. But the booze, she is not. All we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle. Don't forget to tip your waitress. Tonight in the saloon, everything that you could possibly want to know that's deleterious about the Democrats. Now, this is going to be interesting because I am 5 hours early. I'm at 3 p.m. right now Pacific, which is 6 p.m. On the far East Coast, and customarily I'm on at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. on the East Coast. So this may have thrown a number of people for a loop. However, that being said, we're going to motor right on, and apparently I do have one viewer in chat, so great. I get it. I understand it. Here's what's going to happen tonight. Let me go over and delineate some of the things that we've got up for you. I'm going to go through the standard BZ Saloon right here in the studio. And my God, I'll get to the things that have changed in the studio. As in, a whole lot has changed in the studio. But the BZ show will be on for about 2 hours, like it normally is. And then at roughly 5 o'clock Pacific, which would be 8 o'clock Eastern, this is going to transmogrify over into the SHR Media Special Report, and it's going to be about midterms 2018. And it'll probably sound something like this.
This is an SHR Media Network Special Report.
But in the meantime, have I got a lot of information for you. Things that we're going to go over that basically will lead up to the special report. Now, tonight for you, I'm going to sort of introduce this. I've been on social media, so has Sean. And essentially what we've done is we'll be starting at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. And we're just going to go until we either run out of gas or we figure out that something significant is occurring. While we're doing this, you're going to have the original Sackheads back in studio. I'm leading up with my show. 5 o'clock, Sackheads Clint and Sackhead Sean step in. Sackhead Sean is already here, and he's the one that's responsible for the update of the studio. I was going to tweet out a bunch of photographs because, boy, has this place changed. And in the past day and a half, almost 2 days, Sackhead Sean has been doing nothing but spiffing up the studio. And the reason for that is, when we had Sackheads on Wednesday, there were originally 3 positions, 3 stations, 3 microphones, because 3 people would weigh in on the topics of the day. When Sackhead Sean's schedule was such that he couldn't be here consistently on Wednesdays, then it was Sackheads Clint and Sackheads BZ, and we were doing the chat show, Sackheads Against Tyranny, every Wednesday night. 2 people, that's all you need. So there was this command desk and then the desk across the way. Well, since we have the midterms tonight, 2018, basically the entire studio had to sort of been rethought, and we were thinking, okay, if we're going to update the studio, we may as well do a few other things, change a few things around, make some additions while we're here, and that's exactly what we did. A little bit later on after the whole machine gets working in terms of the special report about the midterms, I'm going to start pumping out some social media, some photographs, things like that. When we start it at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, I want to let you know we're going to have a lot of people coming and weighing in and giving reports from all across the United States of America. We'll be reporting on the left coast. Reporting from California is almost like it's an exercise in attempting to nail Jell-O up against a tree, because you know how California won the greatest number of votes, and in California it's generally Democrats. What a shock. They're up on the ballot. So there were a number of times on my ballot when I vote absentee, where I had a Democrat competing against a Democrat, and that occurred on 3 specific instances that I can recall on my ballot. And old BZ just decided that he wasn't going to check any of these bastards or bastardettes off. That's just the way of the world. But in terms of some of the people that we're going to have, we've got Jeff Dunitz from The Lid Show on Wednesdays. Jeff is going to be here. He's going to be weighing in. We're also going to be having Carrie Baxter Donovan, BZ's very own East Coast political goddess, ECPG. She's going to be weighing in about social media and the significance that social media is going to play. And then we've also got, this is great, we've got Melanie Collette that's going to be calling in. She's going to be talking about the big states, the battleground states that are coming up. Florida, Texas, I think Iowa. There are some big states, some big numbers coming up. Then we've got Shannon and Mike Wright from The Right Way, and they're going to be weighing in as well. It's going to be a great show. There's going to be a ton of updates. We're going to keep you updated. We're going to give our salient comments. We're hoping for a replay of 2016. At this point, as I've been saying now for over 2 weeks, I am cautiously or guardedly optimistic. In German auf Deutsch, that would be optimistisch. And I am that. I made one very... Oh, Jeff Dunitz is in chat. Welcome to you, Jeff. Good to see you there. And one viewer. I want to make this very important, what I consider to be a salient point, is as I was driving over here, the thing about it is that I noticed that on the radio station in which I was listening, and I knew this was going to come, there were polls that were being quoted, and I cannot recall the polls because my brain was wired into what am I going to be doing on the show, and I'm driving, and I have to pay attention. But I found this very interesting because there were a number of polls being quoted on the radio saying that it looks like the Republicans are going to keep the Senate, and they may even keep the House. Stop right there. What is it that we happen to say, that I've been happening to say for the past week, 2 weeks, even the past month, I've been saying, with a few exceptions, what's going to happen the closest that you get to Election Day today, the polls are going to tend to indicate that, in other words, what this tells me is this is a broadcast to those Republicans who have not yet perhaps voted and are thinking, well, it looks like they really don't need my vote. Because what I'm hearing on the radio or what I'm seeing on TV would tend to indicate that my vote isn't really going to count. And from what I'm hearing, it looks as though the Republicans, well, my God, they have it in the bag anyway. So it might be raining. It's more comfortable to sit in my recliner. I don't think they necessarily need my vote. I'm just going to stay home and I'll order a pizza and watch some of the returns on the TV. I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, that's the point of these polls. I didn't hear their origin, and I really don't much care. Mary Brockman, welcome to chat. Good to see you here. I really don't much care about the origin of these polls. And I really don't much care who they are, because now it's D-Day. It's the time that a bunch of us have already voted. And now, if you're talking about fake news, now is the time that you need to pay attention to your own self, your immediate family, people that have gone out to vote, hopefully yourself, and attempt to personally motivate those who have not yet voted to get out, or perhaps you're still at work, but you've made time to go out and vote. You need to continue to make time to go out and vote. Don't assume anything now. Because if you thought the Democrats, the LDAM, the leftists, the Democrats, and the American media maggots were lying to you before, my God, are they ever going to be lying to you today and tonight, specifically with regard to polls? Because let's step back. Wasn't it about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, that we were hearing nothing but there's going to be a massive blue wave, and the Democrats are going to steamroller our ass, and we really don't have a chance. We don't have a chance in hell. Then as we got progressively closer, what we determined is that, well, that meme, that thought seems to be changing. And because of the various political prairie winds, now the thought is it's going to be tight. Well, along with the polls that I heard in the way driving in here, I went through 1, 2, 3, 4 channels. There are 4 channels in Sacramento, which is where we broadcast. We're in the capital of California, which is sad, but that's why I say I'm broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. So I was listening to each of these radio stations, and 2 to 1, they were all saying, well, it's going to be really, really close. And how do I activate that over there?
Just use the mouse. You click on the green thing. So
Okay.
all the way over.
Oh, the mouse goes over here. Oh, my God. I just learned something amazing. Is this Jeff Dunitz?
Yeah, listen, BZ,
Yeah?
I'm calling to apologize.
Why is that?
Because later when we go, to 8 o'clock, I'm going to be on Skype. You'll be able to see me, and I didn't clean my office.
Oh.
My studio's a mess. I actually asked Sean. I sent him, I sent him a picture. It's a mess. And I'm not cleaning. But I do have the microphone that you told me to start using on.
Okay, now, refresh my memory. Which microphone do you have? Is it the Yeti? The Yeti?
No, I got the blue.
Okay, the little circular ball thing?
Yeah. Well, excuse me, but that's a little personal.
Okay, well, maybe ovoid. Maybe I should say ovoid. In any event, ladies and gentlemen,
it works great.
I got to tell you, you sound great on this end. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, for those of you who don't know, this is the wonderful, miraculous Jeff Dunitz of Yid with Lid. Many, many, many years ago, I began my blog in 2004. Jeff began, when did you start your blog, Jeff?
2004.
Okay, perfect. And at the time, blogging was kind of a semi-unique thing, and I came across his blog, he came across me, and we kind of became blog buddies after. I almost said bunnies. We not blog bunnies. Okay, just want to say that. Whenever I think of a bunny, I'm sorry, I think of the holy hand grenade. I don't know why that is. 5 is right out. Now, if I had a producer, I would have had the Monty Python bit up right now. So I don't, and so I don't have that bit up right now.
Okay, let me just tell you one important thing.
Okay.
Kentucky closed. Keep an eye on Kentucky 6.
Kentucky is done?
Well, they closed at 6.
Okay.
Okay, and you got to keep an eye on Kentucky 6 because that is a Republican incumbent who is kind of, let's just say he's in trouble.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Keep an eye, because if Andy Barr wins, probably a good night for the good guys. He is the incumbent.
Okay. I have to tell you that I don't have a lot of familiarity with Kentucky, which is
Neither do I, but I've been studying up, which is why my office is a mess.
But folks, that is why you listen to SHR, because you don't have to take it off the top of BZ's head, which in fact there really isn't much up there anyway, which is why I wear a damn hat, for God's sakes. I mean, really, think about it. There has to be a reason why BZ's wearing a hat. In any event, that's why we have wonderful people like Jeff Dunitz on, who's going to be on for a good portion of the night. And like I say, for those of you who just tuned in, I'm going to be on until about 5 o'clock Pacific and 8 o'clock Eastern, when we're going to get directly into nothing but results. As a matter of fact, Sackhead Sean right now is setting up this massive TV. It looks like he's got about a 40. Jeff Dunitz, let me back up here a little bit for those of you who are listening, and I wish I could turn it around here. When you called in, we have 2 Scepter screens that are in front of us. I've got my laptop in front of us. We've got another laptop over here. And then I'm also setting up a tablet. And I'm looking at my cell phone, which is set up for Facebook calls and Bluetooth calls. Now, in the meantime, since yesterday, Sackhead Sean has set up another screen, which is directly just for Skype calls and other calls that are coming in, because now we have a new phone number here in the studios. And I didn't realize that this mouse, which I can control over these 2 screens that are in front of me, if I keep rolling it, this mouse goes right through the air. It goes right through the air over to this 3rd screen over on the far left, and that's how I clicked on you, and you were in. It's like magic. Jeff, how did you do? Well, it wasn't Jeff. It was Sackhead Sean who made all of that happen. So the little clicker, I don't know, what would you call that? The pointer from the mouse goes from the far right screen, jumps a gap of about 2 or 3 inches to the middle screen, and then how does it do it? It jumps a gap of about 2.5 to 3 feet over to this smaller screen on my far left, and that's how I got you on the damn phone. How does that? How do it know, Jeff? How do it know?
Do you know why?
How? I want to know how.
I drink Red Bull, and Red Bull gives me wings.
Okay, well, that's how you did it. Okay. Well, hey, welcome to Jan McKillop in chat. Welcome to Michael John Pasqua in chat. Before we go any further, I want to indicate to the folks that just jumped in, Jan and Mike, that this is going to be sort of a semi-regular, normal, if you could call it that, saloon show for about 2 hours. Then at roughly the top of the hour, 5 o'clock Pacific and 8 o'clock Eastern, we're going to start into the SHR Media Special Report, where we're going to go specifically into the midterms. And Sackhead's Clint is going to be here. Sackhead Sean is here. Sackhead BZ ain't going nowhere unless he has to go to the bathroom or something like that. And
Bullhead Jeff is in New York.
And Bullhead Jeff is in New York. We've got Carrie Baxter Donovan, who's going to weigh in. We've got Shannon and Mike from the Right Way who are going to be weighing in. We've got Melanie Collette, who's going to be weighing in. And if I get my butt back onto the phone right now and answer it, I've got a text message from Jersey Joe to let me know whether or not he can make it on. So we have a cast literally of thousands of people. But before I get into some of the things that I'm going to be talking about on the show.
Okay, I'm going to go and listen. But one thing.
Okay, one thing. Just one thing. One thing.
The post on the SHR media page because I just posted the picture of my messy office.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey, stop. Before you go, though, before you go somewhere, let everybody know, because I know you're going to be coming back, but let everybody know where it is that you can be read and found on social media, your blog, Facebook, Twitter, that kind of thing. And also let folks know about your show, because you are an SHR Media host with a show. You're a host with the most. So please tell people where you can be found.
The site is lidblog.com. The Twitter is Yid with Lid. And tomorrow, my guest on the show will be Ed Marcy of Hot Air, and we're going to deconstruct what happened tonight.
Captain Ed is a great guy.
Captain Ed. He's you know what? He's one of the nicest people I've ever met, and so is his wife. The nicest.
Wow, okay. All right. Now, in chat, people are saying that they're having a tough time getting us on Spreaker. So if you're having a tough time getting us on Spreaker, it looks like things are transporting along swimmingly. You can go to Facebook, the SHR Media page on Facebook. Or, yeah, because now I'm getting a little circle on Spreaker. And, okay, now it looks like Spreaker is telling me I have to start all over again. Okay, so.
That's strange.
Yeah, I know, that is strange. Broadcasting error 429. So don't let broadcasting error 429 into your house or anywhere near you. And if it gets close, make sure you shoot it with a shotgun. Broadcasting error 429. Don't let it near your house at all.
Anyway, I will call back if there are any results that I need to report.
Okay. All right. We will be here. And, folks, that was... Okay. Thank you, sir.
You got it, man. Bye.
Bye. That was Jeff Dunitz. And we're going to take this way over here. And he already hung up. Okay. Thank you, Jeff, for calling in. Appreciate it. I believe I'm going to have to just start up again. Let's see if I can do this. And I'm going to have to start all over. Now, if you're listening on the SHR Media Facebook page or the SHR Media YouTube channel or the SHR Media Group Periscope page, give me a second to start a few things over here. Because Spreaker, for whatever reason, was not too terribly keen on things, and it went down. So I am in the process of starting Spreaker up again. And in the meantime, what I'm going to do is kind of bat back and forth between various happy stories and some very salient and important reasons why you need to continue. If you haven't yet, you must get out and vote red, because there are all sorts of stories that I've collated and collected. However, speaking and typing is not my forte, so I'm going to have to finish typing here for a moment. This is what you get with technology, but that's okay. We're still making it run. And we're going to see if we can make this run. But first I have to figure out where the pointer is on this. Here it is. Now, if the pointer will allow me to go down here and start the show. I'm getting the circle red. I'm getting a red circle, and it looks like, woohoo, we may have the show back up as well. And so I need to let people in chat. We should be back up now. Okay. And for those that are listening or watching on YouTube, Periscope, and Facebook, I think predominantly you're going to be unaffected. So there we go. We should be right up back now. This is going to be an interesting evening. It's going to be a long evening. I would assume that a lot of people are going to bip in and kind of bip out. But we're going to start with news. I'm going to hop all over the place.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal.
You're going to hear happy stories.
Before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him.
And you're going to hear, like I say, you're going to hear happy stories. You're going to hear stories that are a little bit irritating. And I'm going to go again into the reasons that you need to vote red today if you have not. And I'll be back in just a second with an interesting observation from Jan McKillop, which I find interesting.
A great wall. Stand by for news.
And we've got the news right now. One of the best things that's going on is that CNSnews.com indicated 156,562,000 record employment for the 12th time under Trump. From CNSnews.com, the economy is the second most important issue for registered voters, as the midterm election is today, a new Gallup poll says. Now you're saying, BZ, don't quote polls. When there's good news, you need to know about it. Polls predominantly are designed to, well, they're biased. And when people say that they're apolitical, well, no, they're not. In any good statistics class, I learned that how you craft the question is how you're going to determine the answer. Now, I find this very interesting. In chat, Jan McKillop just said YouTube is blocking all bootlegged Fox News coverage. And I'm not sure what you mean by that. If people are simulcasting Fox News or simulcasting other news events or organizations, yeah, that's verboten. YouTube is going to make sure that you can't simulcast things. We got into a bit of a kerfuffle with that with YouTube a while ago, and we learned our lesson. So, anyway, the Labor Department's Bureau of Labor Statistics rolled out the October employment report, the final one before the midterms that are occurring right now, today. And the report said the number of employed Americans, listen to this, has never been higher. The 156,500,000 Americans employed in October is the 12th record set under President Donald Trump. In October, the number of employed men aged 20 and up, 80,400,000, set the 12th record since Trump took office, and likewise for the 12th time, the number of employed women aged 20 and up set a record reaching 71 million in October. The unemployment rate held at 3.7%, the same as September, which is the lowest it's been in decades, since the end of 1969. And the Hispanic unemployment rate, 4.4%, has never been lower. The unemployment rate for African Americans, 6.2%, remained near the all-time low of 5.9% set in May. So the two lowest unemployment rates for American blacks has been set by Donald Trump. Folks, if that's not good news, I don't know what is. And that's how people should be voting on information like that. Then also from CNBC, and people need to know about this. Another reason that you want to keep Trump in office, and another reason that you want to make sure that you keep the House and that we keep the Senate, is this. Jobs smash estimates with gain of 250,000. Wage gains pass 3% for the first time since the recession. This is great news. This is not just good news. This is great news. Job growth blew past expectations in October, and year over year, wage gains jumped past 3% for the first time since the Great Recession, the Labor Department reported. Non-farm payrolls powered up, I should say, by 250,000 for the month, well ahead of estimates of 190,000. The unemployment rate stayed at 3.7%. Let me repeat this again for those of you who are thinking about voting Democrat. The unemployment rate stayed at 3.7%. That's the lowest unemployment rate since December of 1969. Another reason that I want to emphasize, that's why we need to continue to hold the House and the Senate. I'm sorry, it's good for Americans. It's good for me. It's good for you. Another article from Breitbart got, stop here just for a second. If I had a producer with all this good stuff going on, probably what you should have heard is something like this.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
But sorry, I don't have a producer, and that's not what you heard. From Breitbart, October surprise. U.S. added more than 1,000 manufacturing jobs a day. It's the best since 1998. That's quite some time ago. That's 20 years ago. Rumors of a slowdown in American manufacturing were greatly exaggerated. Who possibly would want to exaggerate that? Oh, that's right. It's the damned leftists, the Democrats, and the American media maggots. The United States added 32,000 new manufacturing jobs in October. Stop. Who was it that said that manufacturing jobs, once they left, they are gone forever and they would never be coming back? And there wasn't any individual, no president, no House, no Senate, no conglomeration of people, no party that could ever manage to bring those jobs back. Bullshit alert. And who said that? Oh, that's right. Barack Hussein Obama, the man who believed that we need to lead from the rear, who we need to practice keep the House, and we need to keep the Senate. Now, October isn't typically any kind of a strong month for manufacturing. In fact, really, the U.S. hasn't created this many, just 13,000 jobs. Obama told you to your face that those manufacturing jobs, they're done, they're gone. You morons, you suckers, you Bible-clutching, gun-toting dummies in the flyover states, in the Rust Belt, all those jobs, they're gone and they ain't coming back. Except they're managing to come back. The strong growth of manufacturing comes after widespread predictions that trade disputes and tariffs on metals would weigh on domestic manufacturing. Oh, all the pearl clutching and the heart gripping that occurred when Donald Trump, we were going to consider tariffs, etc. Well, that didn't happen either. Instead, domestic manufacturing is booming. That's a happy story. These are good times. Here's another story from CNSnews.com. I told you about this, but a little bit more in depth. Hispanic unemployment rate dips to record low in October. Now, this is interesting because this dovetails with another story that I read that just happens to slip into my wheelhouse, which, by the way, as you can clearly see, I'm not going to a break right now. I'm going to go straight up until the top of the hour because I've got so much stuff to go over. And we'll get to that top of the hour break. But the Democrats were worried because of the story that I just read and because of the story that I'm about to read. They're seriously concerned that Hispanics in America, lawful citizens, may be dropping the Democrats and may move over to the Republicans. This is one of the reasons. The national seasonally adjusted unemployment rate for Hispanics and Latinos in the U.S. labor force fell to the lowest level on records in October, as I indicated. The BLS said, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, specifically, it was down from 4.5% in September, which had been the lowest level since the BLS began tracking Hispanic Latino employment since 1975. And amazing things. Amazing things. Let's go to this story. This is from the Wall Street Journal. This is another reason that you need to continue to vote red. Another reason that you need to continue to allow the GOP to keep the House, keep the Senate. From the Wall Street Journal, wages rise at the fastest rate in nearly a decade as hiring jumps. Do you think, let me ask you, do you think that you would have seen anything like this under Obama? Well, he would love to have had a third term, I'm certain, but unfortunately the Constitution doesn't allow that. But if Hillary Rodham Clinton had been installed as president, do you think we would be seeing economic indicators like this? My immediate answer is no, because essentially all the under Obama. From the Wall Street Journal, strong hiring and low unemployment are delivering U.S. workers their best pay raises in nearly a decade. Employers shook off a September slowdown to add 250,000 jobs to the payrolls in October, above monthly averages in recent years. Unemployment holding at 3.7%. That is a 49% low, and the dog next door is barking because I've got the door open because it's so beautiful out there. And this is weird to try to get used to speaking during the day. As you can see, it's not dark in the studio, and I'm customarily used to operating in a darkened studio. Anyway, the good stories just keep on coming. Here's a story from the American Mirror. And I have to ask you, are the Democrats panicking? Do you think that perhaps they were in a bit of a kerfuffle the past month, the past week? What do you think they're thinking today? In this article, in this story, it says, Democrat panic. Ocasio-Cortez calls Trump a monster. Joe Biden threatens violence. And wild-eyed Obama's voice cracks during a recent rant. If you ask me, this adds up. This all tends to add up to these folks are starting really, truly, well and truly to become unhinged. And that's not going to bode well. I don't think that's going to bode well. I think I have some audio here. Yeah, here we go. Here's Joe Biden as he's speaking, and Joe Biden kind of goes off the rail here for about a minute and a half.
As my brother, who loves to use lines from movies, a John Wayne movie, there's a line in the movie, a John Wayne movie, where the Indian chief turns to John Wayne and says, "This is a lion, dog-faced pony soldier." Well, let me tell you, these guys are amazing. They just stand up flat out, stand up and say things that are absolutely mind-boggling. I love this one on trade. This I love. And by the way, I told you, I come from an agriculture. We're nearing the 20th week of zero soybean orders to the Pacific and Northwest China. And your guy calls farmers' concerns hysteria. It says they don't have a very high threshold for pain. Well, I get that president of the trade union is up here. He'll show them a threshold of pain. I mean, don't have a high threshold of pain.
They're losing their poop, so to speak. And it's a continuing indicator to me that things are not going right, that things are not doing well. Let's see if I can back this car wash up and show you a little bit of a taste for about a minute of Barack Obama with an unbuttoned shirt, because now, as opposed to president, he's a man of the people. Okay? Let's hear what he says.
That's the thing that is the most important thing in this election. Not health care, not whether or not folks are able to retire.
Wait a minute. Obama says that health care isn't the most important thing. He'd be wrong. The Democrats, the leftists, and the American media maggots are telling us no. Health care is the most important thing. Well, dear Barack, what is the most important thing to you?
Not doing something about higher wages or rebuilding our roads and bridges and
I just told you about higher wages.
putting people back to work, suddenly it's this group of folks, we don't even know where they are. They're way down there. That's the biggest thing. And you know, as soon as the election's over.
Do you sense that this dude is losing his crap?
Everybody will be like, what happened? We were being invaded. Where
What?
to go? And you know what? It would be funny, except they do it every time, and too often it works. Everybody gets all freaked out. And we got to stop falling for this stuff. We're like Charlie Brown with the football. You can't fall for that okie doke. Don't be hoodwinked. Don't be bamboozled. Wisconsin, don't fall for that kind of fear-mongering.
Right, because the Democrats themselves, they're not fear-mongering anyway. Are they? No, you're going to lose your health care. You're going to fall apart. This is very interesting. Also another article. This is by Newt Gingrich. He says, my midterm predictions, Trump revolution is safe. The Trump revolution is safe, even if the Democrats take the House. There's one clear certainty about Tuesday's midterm elections. Democrat Senator Chuck Schumer in New York is not going to become the Senate Majority Leader. I've looked at every Senate race this year, and I do not see any way the Democrats can win majority control of the chamber when voters cast ballots today. The supposed blue wave broke before making it to shore. This is a much bigger breakthrough in national government than you might ever have expected. If the Democrats acquire a majority in the Senate, they could block every person President Trump nominates for federal judgeships. Now that this seems unlikely, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky and the Senate Republicans will continue the amazing shift of the courts back toward a reliance on the Constitution as the source of legal decision-making. And this shift, Newt Gingrich points out, of the courts is the biggest achievement of President Trump's first 2 years, and it is now likely guaranteed to continue. Also, okay, let's go here. Jeff Dunitz points out, and I remember reading this earlier today, Trump has been helping people already with pre-existing conditions. And Jeff Dunitz has an article over at lidblog.com, where his article indicates, this is the headline, Donald Trump has actually helped Americans with pre-existing conditions. So again, folks, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, don't listen to this crap from the LDAM. Get out and vote. The article says, liberals are prone to claim that all Republicans want to eliminate health insurance coverage for Americans with pre-existing conditions. Of course, that is an outright lie. In fact, a new report shows that Trump has actually helped Americans with pre-existing conditions. Mary Vaught posted an article in the New York Post showing the vital steps the Trump administration has taken to help the chronically ill and individuals with pre-existing conditions. Per her, it goes like this. Trump also recently signed to the right to try. Oh, I forgot about this. Oh, my gosh. I completely forgot about this. Trump recently signed the right to try law, which allows terminally ill patients the right to try experimental or trial drugs as a last-ditch effort to save their lives. Now, stop for a minute. Anybody remember there? I think there were two very specific conditions in Europe. One of them was in the UK, where the United Kingdom specifically forbade parents to seek special life-affirming medications and surgery for their child. It wouldn't even give the parents the chance to try something like that. And now in the United States, we have Donald Trump signing the right to try law. Secondly, the Trump administration has expanded access to more coverage options, not fewer as Obamacare did. To individuals who can't afford pricey Obamacare plans, changes to short-term limited duration insurance are going to give alternatives with more reasonable rates and a guarantee that they can maintain their coverage should they develop a costly illness that requires treatment after their plan's expiration date. Placing politics over people and sticking to their Obamacare or nothing mentality, Democrats in Washington and in the states have actually worked to block access to these plans. So when you hear that, it's opposite. It's a lie. Another point that Jeff Dunitz makes, another great thing Trump has done is to allow the states to have more flexibility in administering their Medicaid programs. The new rule, listen to what the polls are saying and what people are trying to lie to you about so that you don't go out and vote red. That's why I continue to insist. Go out today if you haven't. You have to wait in a line. You have to get a little bit wet. Perhaps you're getting rained on somewhere in the East Coast. You need to do it. You need to keep this success going. Disability groups aligned with Democrats didn't mention it at the time, but Obamacare effectively created a two-tier Medicaid system with individuals with disabilities and other vulnerable populations at the back of the line, at the back of the bus. Under the Affordable Care Act, states get 90 cents from Washington for every dollar they spend covering able-bodied adults, but 50 to 75 cents for covering individuals with disabilities. That's led to states that expanded Medicaid under Obamacare to treat people with disabilities as lower priorities. Woo-hoo! What a great thing that Obamacare is. Unfortunately, Mike in chat says Spreaker is in and out, at least for me. Folks, if you're here, if you're on Spreaker, I would suggest that you continue to go. Probably, I would suggest you go over to one of two. Either go over to the Facebook page, just get in your favorite search engine and put in SHR Media and Facebook, and you'll get that. Or go to YouTube and put in the little search box, SHR Media. You'll find the channel and go there. So, SHR Media Facebook page or SHR Media YouTube channel. We are on 4 venues right now. So if Spreaker goes out for you, I'll try to resurrect it. It might take me a few minutes to do that, but you can continue to listen and watch the show on the SHR Media Facebook page and also the SHR Media YouTube channel.
Spreaker may be overloaded just because of the...
And Sackhead Sean made a very good point. This is interesting, that Spreaker may be overloaded because of so many people, like myself, having the temerity to broadcast about all these damn midterm elections. So, if Spreaker's not working, you have 3 alternatives: Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. When you go to Periscope, by the way, it's SHR Media Group when you're going to your favorite search engine for Periscope. Just thought I'd tell you. This ought to piss you off as well. It's Election Day. It's Tuesday the 6th, but already, according to Politico, Nancy Pelosi has declared victory, even before Election Day. The House Minority Leader spiking the ball, even if her supporters wouldn't call it that, that might be a little bit risky. She's declaring victory in the battle for the House. In public and in private, the House Minority Leader, get that? Minority Leader, who wants to make history herself by retaking the Speaker's gavel. Oh, darn, sucky darn, shucky darn, she lost that 8 years ago. Has said that the Democrats are going to pick up more than enough seats to win back the House and end the Republicans' terrible and officious lock on Congress. She was appearing on the Colbert Show, the late night show with Colbert, saying that she knows for a fact that they're going to walk in and they are going to take everything. Let's go back in history, though. And I'd like to take the next maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes, something like that. I'd like to remind everyone, historically speaking, about the true background and the true nature of the Democrat Party. Because, folks, if you really want to fight racism, you really care about fighting racism, because, as I've said for years, no one is equal until everyone is equal. You want to fight racism well and truly? You got to vote Republican, because the Democrats are the original and continuing party of racism. A couple of questions for you. Just who were the original KKK members in the South? That's right, Democrats. And who voted against freeing the slaves during Lincoln's presidency? Oh, well, that would be correct again. Democrats. Democrats voted against every single piece of civil rights legislation in Congress. Democrats voted against the 13th Amendment except for 4 of them. Let's go back just to the 60s now. Or let's move ahead, I should say, just to the 60s now. Lyndon Baines Johnson, who was president, is known to have said specifically, "I'll have those niggers voting Democrat for 200 years." Now, Snopes, a leftist site, denies this, but I found a very important and salient individual who was very close to LBJ, a man named Robert McMillan. He was an Air Force One steward. He said LBJ, in fact, made those comments to 2 governors during a conversation regarding the Civil Rights Act itself of 1964. Then there was a conversation by Johnson himself.
Cigarette tax, everything else.
Listen.
Federal government's telling the states pretty tough what their business is. Now, you can say that they can't discriminate, but I've got to prove that it discriminates, and I can't prove it in Texas. There are more niggers voting there now than white folks. There are more of them buying poll taxes now than white folks. Higher percentage of them. And I can't show that the literacy test that discriminate against, because they haven't got any. They got no test at all. Just by God, anybody that can get up and pay $1.06 can vote.
Right, but you got to remember that the Democrats are not racist in any way, shape, or form, are they? Nah. Let's listen to Don Lemon, who, I'll be honest, Don Lemon is, quite frankly, not incredibly intelligent, not incredibly verbose, and unfortunately, he also falls into the category of, I have to say, I kind of think that he's a racist. So let's go back here and let's listen to Don Lemon speak for himself.
I keep trying to point out to people not to demonize any one group or any one ethnicity, but we keep thinking that...
But there's a big however in there.
The biggest terror threat is something else. Some people who are marching, towards the border like it's imminent. And when the last time they did this, a couple hundred people came and they, most of them did get into the country. Most of them got tuckered out before they even made it to the border. So we have to stop demonizing people and realize the biggest terror threat in...
Okay, we have to stop demonizing people, but yet, hang on, stand by. Don Lemon is about to, that's right, demonize people.
This country is white men, most of them radicalized to the right. And
most white men are radicalized to the right. Remember that. Important. Remember Don Lemon's quote, if you will, if you haven't yet stepped into the voting booth to vote red today, tonight, if you haven't already mailed in your absentee, and you're thinking, well, the polls are looking pretty good for the Republicans. No. Do you trust Don Lemon to tell you the truth? I certainly wouldn't. I would suggest that no one does. It's a very interesting point. Now, this is something that I wanted to play last Thursday night, and I just didn't have the time. I ran out of time. But I'm going to start to play a portion of it for you now so that you have a continuing understanding of the real honest and truthful background of the Democrat Party and why I call them that. And they comprise the triumvirate of the LDAM, leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots. If you haven't listened to any of this guy's videos, you must. This guy is sort of an individual from a few years ago, and he's been around for a while, by the name of Bill Whittle, W-H-I-T-T-L-E. And he was sort of the precursor to Prager University. Dennis Prager, a conservative, a Jew, a great guy, already has a radio show on the Salem Radio Network. Bill Whittle was Prager before Prager was cool. And Bill Whittle is also an historian and gives great information, does and hosts great videos. And essentially what he's going to do now is tell you about the history of the racist, honest to God, the racist Democrat Party. The truth. From Bill Whittle. Okay, now it's saying that it's not going to let me play it. Now it's going to let me play it. Here we go.
Democrats have done everything in their power to make sure that no one knows the history of the Democratic Party, let's just call this little exercise, pin the tail on the donkey. And because I'm a conservative and can operate from a background of, the truth, then let me say right at the beginning that I don't expect you to take my word for any of this. You just be sure to go on out there and look it all up. Okay, here we go. Now, as with the 2016 presidential slate, the Democratic Party is much older than the young Republicans, so let's pin the tail on the donkey with the first presidential cycle that had a Republican in the race. In 1856, the election was a three-way affair between Democrat James Buchanan, American Party candidate Millard Fillmore, and John C. Fremont, representing the fresh-out-of-the-box Republican Party, otherwise known to Democratic hecklers as the Black Republican Party. That was a racial slur used by the Democrats since the Republican Party was created specifically from disaffected Whigs in order to combat slavery. That's why the Republican Party was formed. Now,
did you hear that? Did you understand that? Do you grok that concept? The Republican Party was created in order to oppose slavery. And the Democrats would have you they would forbid you from knowing this information.
Here are the results: a big Democratic win without a majority for James Buchanan, who would go on to secure the Democratic Party trifecta of having the three worst chief executives in American history: James Buchanan, Jimmy Carter, and President Golf Cart. Now, Buchanan sat for 4 years and watched the Civil War approaching. If there had been golf courses back then, he would have been on them, and maybe he would have taken the top spot. But as it was, he said in private he was going to be the last president of the United States, and he very nearly was. All Buchanan wanted was to survive his term before the shooting started. And so the job of, saving...
Now, what does he mean by the shooting? He means the Civil War.
...saving America fell to the next Republican candidate in 1860. Now, what most people don't realize about the election of Abraham Lincoln was that the 7 states of the deep Confederacy had left the Union before Lincoln even took office. Not only did the Republican not carry a single slaveholding state, there were entire counties in the Democratic South where he did not receive a single popular vote, not even one, not even as a joke or a protest. That's because the slaveholding, racist, Democratic states and politicians that had just left the Union to form the Confederacy knew that the election of a Republican president meant the end of slavery in America.
You got that? The election of a Republican president would mean the end of slavery in America. Folks, you're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin live and direct right here at the SHR Media Network. We're going to be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This is Sackhead Sean.
And this is Sackhead's Clint.
And
Conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
SHRmedia.com. Be there.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore. and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic, concealed carry, and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
SHR Media Network. Go to SHRmedia.com. And Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, the justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her.
A new show on the SHR Media
It's
Network.
The Lid Radio
Sackheads
Show
Against
with Jeff
Tyranny.
Dunitz.
On SHRmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct
Girls,
on the
Carry
SHR
Girl
Media
Gear is
Network.
here. More and more women every
SHRmedia.com.
day are
Be there.
concealed carrying, participating in competitive firearms. It's not a boys' club anymore. We don't have to
When
shop
dirty
in their
politicians,
stores
shadow
anymore
governments,
either.
and deceptive
Finally,
Islam blind the
a cool
world
and
with
unique
fake stream
clothing
media
line just
smoke,
for
their
women.
only fear
Dope
is
tees
one
and hats
man
for
with
the
a cane.
patriotic,
I'm
concealed
Dave
carry,
Miller.
and 2A
Join me
girl.
through
So what are you waiting for?
SHRmedia.com, High Plains
Go
Talk
check out
Radio.com, and the Western
carrygirlgear.com
Free Radio
today.
Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
because truth is not always pleasant.
Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic...
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right.
New show on the
You're
SHR
listening
Media
to
Network.
the SHR Media Network.
On SHRmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. SHRmedia.com. Be there.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to the SHR Media Network. This is a very unique and special night. I am the bloviating Zeppelin. I am your host at this new and improved time, temporarily, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, and I will be going until 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern, when we will transmogrify magically, right before your very eyes, into the SHR Media special report regarding the midterms in 2018. Before the break, we were listening to Bill Whittle tell us in no uncertain terms, and it's quite true historically and otherwise, that if you want a party of racism, it's specifically the party of the Democrats. People need to know the history and why it is. If you're thinking about voting for a Democrat, You're voting for racism.
You see this flag that modern Democrats try to pin on Republicans? It was invented, as was the entire Confederacy, because Democrats walked out of the Union because once a Republican president had been elected, slavery was finished in America. Now, that's why the person perhaps most singly responsible for ending slavery in America, the brilliant and courageous Frederick Douglass, once wrote, quote, "I'm a Republican, a black, dyed-in-the-wool Republican, and I never intend to belong to any other party than the party of freedom and progress." Don't believe me?
The Republicans are the party of freedom and progress. It is true then and true today. Who would give you more individual freedoms? Democrats. Please continue.
The Democrats ran as their candidate George B. McClellan. Now, Lincoln had appointed the little Napoleon to command the Army of the Potomac, march down to Richmond, and end the war. But McClellan, who kept demanding more men, more wagons, more artillery, and more time, never seemed to get around to it, until finally he did, where he was promptly whipped by Robert E. Lee in the Peninsula Campaign. Now, although personally for continuing the war, McClellan bowed to the Democratic Party platform that called for immediate peace with the Confederacy, a move that would have ended the war and also given us two countries, one in which their cherished institution of slavery stayed intact. Now, one of the most influential Democratic delegates of 1864 was Clement Vallandigham from Ohio. He had called the Civil War to end slavery, quote, "a wicked, cruel, and unnecessary war," unquote. His call for the Constitution as it is and the Union as it was became the de facto Democratic Party platform of 1864. The Union as it was, of course, meant the Union where slavery would be allowed to continue as it had under Democratic presidents. Unfortunately for the formerly Democrat and now Confederate slaveholders, the Confederacy lost that war, but they immediately went into overdrive in order to win the peace for racism. I hate to break it to you, but it was defeated Democrats that started the Ku Klux Klan, and it was these same former and then once again Democrats that created in the years right after the Civil War two modern institutions, gun control and marriage licenses.
Stop. The Democrats are the party of racism. Period. End of statement. Thank you, Bill Whittle. Also, I'm over on YouTube right now. And thanks to everybody that's there in YouTube, in the YouTube chat. I'm looking at Mary Brockman, Mike Pasqua, and also Cold Warrior. Thanks for being there in the chat. I don't know if Spreaker, let me take a peek at Spreaker and see if it's still rolling. It may or may not be, if I can get the mouse to agree with me here. Nope, Spreaker has died. And I think I'm done trying to start Spreaker. If we want to start Spreaker at 5 o'clock, we may be able to do that. But right now I'm too busy and I've got some other things to go with and to roll with. Let's continue, please, with Bill Whittle.
Gun control was enacted by Southern Democrats in order to keep guns out of the hands of newly freed black people. And marriage licenses, you know, the idea that the government could tell people who...
Wait a minute, isn't that true now? If we have gun control, then doesn't it also continue to keep guns out of the hands of black people who otherwise could be eminently qualified, like anyone else, to possess a firearm concealed?
Could marry whom? Was invented by Democrats to prevent black people from marrying white people. Don't believe me? Look it up. All of those lynchings, those were Democrats.
Okay, hang on one second. I think we have, let's see, who is on this line right now?
I just wanted to add something that Mr. Whittle left out.
Okay, what is that? This is Jeff Dunitz, folks, from
Yes.
the Lid blog, who will be coming in tonight, now, and at certain times, all throughout the rest of the night.
Who filibustered the voting right.
Or voted that bad boy down. Yes,
And
you are
don't
absolutely
forget
correct.
that they had a former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan as their most valuable senator for years.
Oh, right. And for that, but I did. And he was...
Yes, Robert Byrd. He was a former Grand Wizard. I don't know. I don't understand why the Ku Klux Klan kind of celebrates people peeing. But that's something totally different.
It if this weren't the way it was right now, it would make you seem, because, frankly, Jeff Dunitz, I'm surprised that Bill Whittle still has a presence. He may be even demonetized, as far as I know, if he was monetized at one point. But it's amazing that his information is still on the net. What's that? Say again, Jeff.
He had a show on Pajamas Media. And they paid him.
I remember he used to have a series of great videos, of wonderful videos.
Yeah, I mean, he very
went to Bill Whittle's page, and you listened and watched his really professionally done videos, which is why I wanted to make sure that tonight, when I have the time, before we actually get deep into the weeds in election coverage, that I let people who may not understand the true past of the Democrats, that they have a firm grasp of what these people really mean, what they've meant in the past, what they mean now, and what they mean to do for vote blue. If you haven't voted, folks,
if the Democrats get the House, there's a big chance that everything that we've accomplished in the last 2 years is going to go in the toilet.
And they've said it. They've said it quite frankly. Maxine Waters has said it, that they're going to go out of their way to undo everything that we've done, and specifically to screw with us in various committees and to start investigations on anyone and everything. She said it. Nancy Pelosi has said it. You know, when people tell you negative things, sooner or later, like Islam, if they tell you they want to kill you, sooner or later you really do need to begin to understand the Democrats.
One more reason to vote. They hate Israel. But I have to add to that. The Democrat Party has become the anti-Semitic party.
Yes.
And just today, a friend of mine that works in the Senate, Matt Walking. I don't know if you've met him.
No, I have not.
Good guy. Thought the fact that Democrats are, he laughed about it. The fact that the Democrats are associating with Jew haters, he thought was funny. It's in the Free Beacon.
Right, because that's a laugh riot. That is an absolute laugh riot. I mean, isn't that a knee slapper, Jeff Dunitz?
I posted again today that any Jew has to vote Republican. Otherwise, it's suicide.
Okay.
It's simple as that. I mean, it's self-destruction because Democrats hate Jews, even the Jewish ones. I mean, I used to have a good relationship with Chuck Schumer's communication director, who's really nice. But I kept warning her that the party's becoming more and more anti-Semitic. She better talk Chuck, and nothing's ever happened.
No,
anyway, I just thought you want to know about what you call it, about the filibusters.
Right. Okay, that's an excellent point.
I will call in later when I start getting results. So far, there's the only really result that Tim Kaine won re-election, but that's not a surprise.
Okay. All righty. Well, thank you, sir. Folks,
see you later.
That is Jeff Dunitz of lidblog.com. He has the blog where I read one of the stories earlier. Let's continue with Bill Whittle.
The first black senator.
And this is the history of the racist Democrat Party in under 12 minutes by Bill Whittle.
And representatives, they were all Republicans, including these two men. Republican Hiram Revels, the first black member of Congress, and Joseph Rainey, who became pro tempore Speaker of the House of Representatives and who received death threats from Southern Democrats for his efforts to suppress the KKK by force. Charming people, these Democrats, aren't they? It was Southern Democrats that wrote the Jim Crow laws that segregated the South in the century after the Civil War, and it was the post-Reconstruction elections of these Southern Democrats that were responsible for colored-only drinking fountains and colored-only cafeteria spaces and all that.
Sure, beautiful.
Now,
what an idea.
Well, it's hard to talk about the history of the Democratic Party without their incessant racism, which continues to this day. Let's just very quickly look at Democratic economics. Now, between 1920 and 1921, the United States entered its first actual depression. You probably haven't heard of it because it didn't last very long, and it didn't last very long because a Republican named Calvin Coolidge was president at the time. Facing an economic slowdown at least as severe as the one that was to follow a decade later, Coolidge, being a Republican, cut the tax rate from 73%. In a few years, it became 24%. And he slashed federal spending by half. Shockingly, slashing the amount of money businessmen had to pay in taxes gave them more money to spend on their businesses, and that's exactly what they did. They were out of the Depression within a year or so, and the rest of the decade was called the Roaring Twenties because it was the economy that was roaring, but his policies did turn it into the Great Depression. Unlike Republican Coolidge, who cut taxes and federal spending, FDR, the Democrat, raised the tax rate to 94% on the people who had the money to invest in getting businesses back on their feet.
Did you hear that? A 94% tax rate.
That money went to Washington for feel-good public works programs that created no new wealth at all, instead of letting businesses get back to work. What Coolidge killed in 2 years.
Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like a George Bush policy? Does that sound like too big to fail? Does that sound like a policy that was continued by Barack Hussein Obama? The answer is yes.
Roosevelt's policies grew and nurtured into an 11-year Great Depression catastrophe that gutted this country so severely that people simply let him get away with anything he wanted, including most of the social welfare vote buying that has turned what was once the richest country in the world into the most indebted country in the world. Now, the Donkey Party also got their hoofs into the Constitution, and that's not a pretty tale either. I could and have, in fact, done about an hour on each of the three big progressive amendments, but we don't have that kind of time. So, in a nutshell, the 16th Amendment gave us the income tax so that today you can send about half of your money to Democrats in Washington for them to buy votes with.
Right.
The 17th Amendment gave all of your power to Democrats in Washington by changing the way that people were elected to the Senate, the House of the States, which had previously protected states' interests and power, but which now became sort of a glorified country club. And, of course, the 18th Amendment, prohibition, which deprived you of your ability to have a drink at the end of the day to soften the blow of all of these racist and economic nightmares Democrats have inflicted upon America. By the way, it took Democrats to pass the only constitutional amendment to actually take away an existing freedom. It's kind of what they do, taking away people's freedom, but back to race. When those attack dogs were unleashed on black children trying to go to school in the South in the early 1960s, they were unleashed by Democrats like Bull Connor, Lester Maddox, and George Wallace. And when those fire hoses were turned on peaceful black protesters, those orders came from those same Democrats. So, why does black America vote so solidly Democratic? Well,
stop. Were you aware that George Wallace was a Democrat? Were you aware of that?
The Democrats will tell you that the teams switch sides. You know, I didn't happen to get that memo. You know, the memo is saying that all the racists now have to leave the Democratic Party and become Republicans, and all of the slavery-hating Republicans have to suddenly join the hated party of the Confederate battle flag, the KKK, and Jim Crow. I didn't get the memo because the memo doesn't exist. No one switched sides. The entire idea is ridiculous. It didn't happen. But something did happen. There was a switch, all right. And it was a switch masterminded by the great Democratic champion of black America, Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Thank you.
Realizing that the South was emerging from its racist past to start voting Republican, he knew the game was over, and then he had an epiphany. Republicans and Democrats didn't switch sides, but the Democrats most certainly did switch strategies. And that switch in strategy can best be summed up by a direct quote from Democratic President Lyndon Baines Johnson, who said in the presence of two Southern governors, and I quote,
"Here it comes.
I'll have those voting Democratic for the next 200 years. And so far, he has.
He's been correct.
Because that was the new strategy for the Democrats, you see, and it's worked like a charm. Buy the votes of black America with handouts. You know, just enough to keep them coming back every 2 years. It's a Democratic vote plantation is what it is. And black America is enslaved to it as thoroughly as they were when they were slaves under Democratic politicians and policies, as we've just seen. The Democrats have hired, and at sub-minimum wage, I might add, black America to vote for them in exchange for crappy housing, crappy food, crappy EBT cards, and crappy Obama phones. And if you're a black American who's wondering why things just get worse and worse for black America, well, your answer is that when it comes to your Democratic benefactors, you're not a customer. You're an employee. You're a minimum wage employee.
Thank you.
We Republicans find this entire entitlement slavery disgusting. We want no part of it. The Republican Party was formed in opposition to slavery of any kind, and it remains that way to this day. So why haven't you heard about this horrible tale that belongs to that donkey? Well, it's because of what my friend and colleague Andrew Klavan calls the Democratic ring of power. It's the press, or in Andrew's words, they're precious. Like the ring of power, it grants Democrats the power of invisibility, the power to come back again and again and again with their policies of economic failure and racial slavery, secure in the knowledge that no one will ever see what they did the last time they tried it. It's kind of a shame about the internet, because now all of you can go and look all of this up for yourself. Anyway, that's whom we're dealing with. So go find out for yourself how true all of this is, and then for your own sake and the sake of the country, don't be an ass.
Thank you very much, Bill Whittle. The history of the Democrat Party. I hope you learned something from that. I can say that I picked up a few tidbits myself. But if you want to find out, if you want to actually stop racism and let people achieve true greatness on their own, then you need to push the Democrats aside and fight racism. Vote Republican. Vote red today. If it's raining, if you haven't filled out and shipped in your absentee, it's not too late. Get to the polls. Don't listen to the polls on the television. Get to your individual polls. Vote red and continue to do so. And until the rest of the show, another 35 minutes or so, I'm going to continue with a series of reasons why you need to vote red tonight. You may or may not know, and Jeff Dunitz was just talking to us. Jeff Dunitz happens to be Jewish. Lidblog.com, that's where you can find him, lidblog.com. He will pop in and out all night tonight. Ron Dermer, who is the Israeli ambassador to the to the U.S., had a little tete-a-tete recently with CNN and with a CNN reporter. And when Jeff Dunitz was happening to say that it would appear that the Democrats themselves, and when I say Democrats, I'm talking about the triumvirate, leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots, because the American media maggots are nothing but the publishing arm and the television arm of the leftists and the Democrats. And here's, like I indicate, a tete-a-tete between Ron Dermer, ambassador from Israel to the United States, and a CNN reporter who wasn't exactly expecting this.
You introduced politics here. Let's get you to weigh in on the conversation that's been happening since this happened yesterday about the president and responsibility.
By the way, this is regarding the shooting at the synagogue where 11 people were killed. And this is the CNN reporter introducing.
Now, the only person responsible for what happened here is the man who pulled the trigger, right?
That's right.
He's the person who's responsible for the deaths. But to what degree do you believe, as some of the president's critics have said, that he's responsible for the environment that would have fed some of what we're seeing, this growth in anti-Semitism?
The environment. Okay, the synagogue shooting, remember, is the fault of Donald John Trump, the guy with a dead orange cat on his head. Lies, lies, continuing lies. You cannot trust anything that comes out of CNN. When President Trump says fake news, the first thing that I have to tell you I think of is CNN.
Based on some of his rhetoric.
I have to tell you, Victor, I've been following anti-Semitism all of my adult life. I have never heard a stronger statement than the statement the President of the United States made yesterday. He said at his rally in Illinois that if you are going to try to destroy the Jewish people, we're going to destroy you. I've never heard a non-Israeli figure anywhere, not a European leader, not an American president, ever say such a strong statement condemning anti-Semitism. And I think one of the reasons why is that anti-Semitism hits the president close to home, his whole his family.
Listen to this. Trump is a Jew hater. Oh, Trump hates Jews. He doesn't mind that 11 people were slaughtered in a synagogue. Listen to this. Facts from Ron Dermer.
His daughter and his son-in-law, his grandchildren are Jewish, and I think it hits him very hard, and I was very glad to see how forcefully he pushed back against that yesterday, and I know that he's not alone. You have people on both sides of the political aisle. I met with Senator Casey. I met with congressmen who are both Democrats and Republicans from this area. And I know you're very divided in your political debate here in the United States, almost anything. And I know you're about a week or 10 days before an election. It was nice to see people from across the aisle unite in pushing back against this heinous crime and the hatred that inspired it.
And that's not exactly what CNN was looking for in terms of a response. I have another cut for you. This is a CNN shill. In this case, the prior case, it was a shill. In this case, it's a shillis. A CNN shillis, a journalistus, attempts to get Rabbi Jeffrey Myers from the Tree of Life Synagogue, that's where the shootings occurred, to blame President Trump, or conservatives for that matter, for the attack. Oddly enough, this is the guy whose church was torn apart, lives killed. He's not going to go where he's being directed by CNN.
Do you blame anyone for what happened there at the Tree of Life beyond the gunman?
Gotcha. I don't really foist blame upon any person. Hate does not know religion, race, creed, political party. It's not a political issue in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Hate does not know any of those things. It exists in all people.
But can hate be cultivated?
But you see where she's going? This is a purposeful redirection by CNN, which is why they are fake news, because she's not getting what she wants. To support the meme that Donald Trump is a monster, an anti-Semite, and any other adjective that you can think of, he's terrible. And the rabbi is not taking her up with her cause.
What we're struggling with today is maybe hate's in all people, maybe it's dormant. What lights the match of hate? Okay,
what lights the match with hate? She's not going to let this go. She's going to be like a rat onto, a discarded dog from Wiener Schnitzel. Folks, we're going to be right back. You're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin right here on the SHR Media Network, and this is BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This is Sackhead Sean.
And this is Sackhead's Clint.
And Sackhead's BZ.
Join us for a very important SHR Media special report, Election Night, November 6th, as we cover midterm returns live from the SHR Media Studios.
Not only will we have the best live election coverage, we'll have our very own SHR reporters on scene around the nation to keep you immediately updated.
We'll start at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and go until, well, it's over. We may have some choice comments to make along the way.
For the best
conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
SHRmedia.com. Be there. This is Sackhead Sean.
And this is Sackhead's Clint.
And Sackhead's BZ.
Join us for a very important SHR Media special report, Election Night, November 6th, as we cover midterm returns live from the SHR Media Studios.
Why are they joining us?
Not only will we have the best live election coverage, we'll have our very own SHR reporters on scene around the nation to keep you immediately updated.
We'll start at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and go until, well, it's over. We may have some choice comments to make along the way.
For the best midterm election night coverage, go to shrmedia.com and watch the show on Facebook,
From a public
YouTube,
locker
and
inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright. And ridicule.
Join us for the Right Way with Shannon and Mike,
featuring
Monday
the
through
conservative
Thursday,
voice
from
the
7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Himself,
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like
Tune
sports,
in every Wednesday
politics.
at 2 p.m.
Oh,
Eastern,
maybe some
11
news
a.m.
and
Pacific
entertainment?
on
And
the
all kinds of other
SHR
things.
Media
Money,
Network. Go to shrmedia.com.
Yeah,
At
so join us
Lid
Monday
Radio,
to
we
Thursday,
fight for the
7 to
truth,
9 a.m.
justice,
here on
and a good kosher
shrmedia.com.
T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for From her a public election locker loss. inside a It's the Lid
dilapidated
Radio
Long
Show
Island rail
with
station
Jeff
comes the
Dunnis.
show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunnis. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunnis.
Inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic, concealed carry, and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio
New show on the
Network,
SHR Media
Spreaker,
Network,
YouTube, and iTunes
Sackheads
for a different
Against
perspective
Tyranny
weekly on the
on
unpleasant blind side. And catch
shrmedia.com.
me
Go
on
there
Jeff
quick like a bunny,
Mitchell's
11
DVL
p.m.
Radio on
Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every
There's
Wednesday, live and direct.
Because
the
truth
SHR Media
is
Network.
not always pleasant.
shrmedia.com. Be there.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network, and I am the bloviating Zeppelin, the bulbous rotund one. And I am the intro tonight into the SHR Media Special Report, Midterms 2018. That's going to be starting at the top of the hour, 5 o'clock Pacific, and 8 o'clock Eastern. We're going to have a ton of people reporting in. We've already had Jeff Dunnis reporting in. We're going to have Carrie Baxter Donovan reporting in as well, talking about social media. Melanie Collette will be coming in, talking about the various big states, the battlegrounds in the elections. Shannon and Mike will be coming in. And then when he gets here, Clint will be here along with myself and Sackhead Sean, who is sitting no more than about 3 feet to my right, right over here.
Hi, Sean.
And the studio looks great. It was completely upside down yesterday. We had to make 3 mic positions now. It's great. It's fabulous. There's about a 78-foot screen over here where we're watching news. He added a new screen over here for Skype, etc. There's a ton of things going on in the studio right now. I'm going to continue on with the reasons why that you should, if you haven't already, shamey on you if you haven't already gone out and voted red, a complete and straight red ticket today, or if you haven't already mailed in your absentee ballot like I did. I trotted my absentee ballot right down to my little county electorate folks. got out of my Kraut car, parked it, walked in and physically handed it to an information person at the front desk, and wrote down their name and the time that I did that. And my absentee ballot is in, and I have voted. Please, if you have not yet voted, get out and do so. Now, on the East Coast, it's about 7:38 right now. You might have a few more minutes left to go ahead and vote. I don't know what your state is like, how long the polls are open on the East Coast. Generally around here, they're open until 8 o'clock, which means that we still have 3.5 hours left in Fornicalia in which to vote. So if you're on the West Coast or the middle of the states, get out, please, 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 get out and vote. And this is one of the reasons that you should not vote Democrat. And I'm talking to you now, Florida, because I'm asking you this question. So, do you really want to install Andrew Gillum, or Gillum, however he pronounces his name? Do you really want to install him as Florida governor as opposed to DeSantis? You might want to rethink that position, because he'll have ready police protection to defend himself. But you won't, and law enforcement won't either. This is from the WashingtonFreeBeacon.com. Andrew Gillum says, police are going too far if they pull out their gun, baton, or taser in the line of duty. And that falls into the "are you kidding me" department, and the answer is no, I'm not. Andrew Gillum, the Democrat nominee in Florida's gubernatorial race, said last Wednesday that police are going too far, that's a quote, too far, if they have to pull out a gun, a baton, or a taser when they're approaching a potential suspect. He happened to be on a radio show, on a podcast, and would it shock you if I were to say that I have that quote right here on the radio?
We've got to navigate in my state the fact that they think I'm, Mr. Break the Law and, all this other stuff that they say. God knows I don't want to give life to it, but all the stuff that they say, I've got to let them know. Anti-police? No. I'm for police accountability. But look, law enforcement society cannot work, and quite frankly, law enforcement can't do its job if it does not have a trusting relationship with the community.
Now that does, on its face, does that sound so bad? No, law enforcement should have a trusting relationship with its community. Okay, now it goes alternative dimension right now.
Time that a law enforcement official has to go to a weapon, to a gun, to a baton, to a taser, then they have already have to go too far. By their very presence, by the very trust that they inspire in community and in society, they're supposed
Okay, hang on a minute. In case you thought you didn't really hear what you thought you heard, okay?
They have already have to go too far. By their very presence, by the very trust that they inspire in community and in society, they're supposed to be able to bring most situations to heel. Have a trusting relationship with.
Wait a minute.
It can't do its job if it does not have a trusting relationship with the community. At the time that a law enforcement official has to go to a weapon, to a gun, to a baton, to a taser, then they have already have to go too far. By their very presence.
It's too far for law enforcement, basically, to resort to any means of a firearm or a taser or a baton to either defend themselves or attempt to effect an arrest or protect another individual. Really? That's interesting. Here's from RealClearPolitics.com. Gillum's anti-law enforcement agenda for Florida. The past several years have witnessed the radical left using law enforcement as a political target, which has increased the risks for those people in uniform and hurt public safety. Andrew Gillum, the so-called Democrat socialist candidate for governor of Florida, represents the triumph of that progressive left's approach to law enforcement and a victory by him in November. A victory by Gillum tonight is going to lead to a statewide increase in crime in Florida. Mark my words. that Florida is going to see some kind of a rise like that under Gillum, it's not fanciful and it's not speculative, but it's an obvious inference from his tenure while he was mayor of Tallahassee, Florida. On his watch, the city, Leon County metro area, has had the highest crime rate in the state for 4 years running. Read that again. Let me tell you this again. On Gillum's watch, the city and Leon County metro area has had the highest crime rate in the state of Florida for 4 years running. Last year, Tallahassee had the highest number of murders in the city's history. And then, in maybe a wee bit of irony or what I call schadenfreude, there's this. Incredibly, Gillum's former chief of staff, Dustin Daniels, who's running to succeed him as mayor, is campaigning aggressively against Gillum's failed leadership. Tallahassee had the highest number of murders in history last year, Daniels wrote in a campaign mailer. And we topped the state for the highest crime rate. We must do better. Okay, look, if you can't sit on the bank of the river and watch the bodies of your enemy float serenely by, then what's the point of any victory, okay? It's simply inarguable that Andrew Gillum has failed to keep the city of Tallahassee safe. So, Florida, you want this guy who's managed to ruin Tallahassee. What a grand idea it is to make sure that, hey, he can move up in the world and ruin the entire state of Florida. Grand idea. Grand idea. So given his ideological radicalism, and I can't see any other way around that's accurate, it's not shocking that he has failed spectacularly, just as leftism has failed spectacularly in Chicago. Let's be honest, Andrew Gillum is the most anti-law enforcement candidate, perhaps in the history of the United States so far, definitely this year. Let's go into it a little bit more. We've got about 15 minutes left before the top of the hour, and the SHR Media Special Report steps in with midterms 2018 coverage. Like I say, but wait, there's more. Okay, take, for example, his strong support for the radical group Dream Defenders. Now, if you haven't heard about the Dream Defenders before, during a Democrat gubernatorial primary debate, Gillum endorsed the agenda of these people called the Dream Defenders from the stage. He was absolutely gushing and said he was pleased and proud to stand up for and stand beside the group, which has, among other stances, they've likened Israel's treatment of endorsement of the Dream Defendant. Who doesn't like freedom? The Freedom Papers, which denounce all of law enforcement as racist, and liken the police to slave catchers. The manifesto calls for the abandonment of the police and prisons, and it asserts that police, and this is a quote, police and prisons have no place in justice. And I guess he means that the police and prisons have no place in society as well. So accordingly, the Freedom Papers call for a radical reduction in the law enforcement funding, demanding reinvestment of all that money into social services, into our communities. Okay. And I've been given the indicator that in about 5 minutes, I'm going to be climbing out, and we're going to be starting our media coverage. Before I go, I got to say this. To the state of Florida, if you cannot see what's happening and you don't have the sufficient fecundity to look all the way across the United Snakes of America and look at California, if you want your state to be devoid of taxpayers and normal people, actual normal people, keep this shit up. Regular human beings are fleeing California, And regular human beings are going to, if they're not already, flee Florida. If for no other reason than all of Florida's animals seem to want to kill humans, okay? The snakes, the alligators, the constrictors, and everything like that. And the weather kind of exists to wipe everybody out. Further, this manifesto, the Freedom Manifesto, slanders all people in Florida who don a uniform to protect and serve their communities, which, of course, includes law enforcement personnel of all races, all creeds, all colors, and by sliming law enforcement as racist and by likening police officers to slave catchers, the Gillum-endorsed Freedom Papers place a target on the backs of officers. I think I've done pretty much my level best, what I can right now, to ensure that I have delineated for you in as many ways as possible, although I had so many more examples, but I just don't have the time to do that. The point of this today is, if you haven't voted, please get out and vote. Too late for your absentee. Get out and vote. Please get out and vote. There are tons of examples why you need to. The midterms, leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots are saying that this is a referendum against Donald Trump. We're going to talk about this later because I have some very specific ideas about what this is a referendum for or against. And in a way, I'll say, yeah, it does have something to do with Donald Trump. But I will also submit, and it's no secret, I talked about this on Ken McClinton's show last night. There are quite a number of factors that are involved in today's election that people are not taking into account. And later on, when Sean gets here and when Clint gets here and we have a number of people coming in and we go into the election returns and whatnot, we'll go in depth with those things. But I believe that there are a number of things that polls are not taking into account, that the leftists are not taking into account, that the American media maggots are not taking into account. And unfortunately, these days, I have to throw a number of Fox reporters, I guess, under the bus as well, because if you think that Fox is predominantly conservative these days, I'm starting to have my doubts. In any event, these factors are things that, well, I'll just go into a couple right now, and I will reiterate them later. Two of what I consider to be huge factors have occurred recently, just in the past 2 months. And they happen to do with social media. Carrie Baxter Donovan will talk later about this as we get into the SHR Media Special Report Midterms 2018. One of the things that was started by Brandon Straka, whom I've spoken to twice on the show, was the hashtag walkaway movement. And hang on for a second. We've got a phone call. And let's see who that is.
Good evening.
How are you? It's Shannon Wright.
I am excited that it is Election Day finally here.
Yeah, no kidding. I have waited for this for quite some time. Shannon, folks, before we go any further, I've had you and Mike on the show before, and it wasn't maybe about 2 weeks ago, and darn me, I should have had you guys on much earlier than that. But having been said, for the folks that are just tuning in, tell people where you can be found. You are both hosts here on the SHR Media Network, and let's give some promo stuff and some props going. Where can you guys be found? Your show, your social media, and any websites that folks can go to read you or listen to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
You can find us there on Facebook. And on Spreaker, of course. Right way in the AM. And we're on February. That's about it. We have a website that is going to be launching in a little under 2 weeks. Which everybody remember the address is liveright, number 4, letter U.com.
Yep. Live right for you.
Okay, and your show is on the SHR Media Network. How many days a week and at what time?
We are on Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. East Coast time.
Yeah.
Okay. And if people happen to tune into that show, Shannon and Mike, what are they going to hear?
Oh, boy. Well, that's sometimes we've had coffee or not.
Well, they'll definitely get to laugh at me because I am, usually one who is making all the mistakes while Shannon corrects me.
No, don't say that. You'll find some humor, your politics, you'll find some news, you'll find all kinds of things.
Yeah, we do a variety of things, from entertainment, sports to top news, politics, everything.
Yep.
Okay, so tell the folks also, where are you? In what state are you?
Oh, good grief. We are in Maryland. We are in Baltimore, Maryland.
Yep.
Which is a wonderfully interesting state.
Oh, yeah.
We have a Republican governor at the moment. Hopefully we will continue to have that. But we are a blue state, so I guess we're kind of purplish.
Yeah.
And in our state, there's a lot of stuff at stake here, as in a lot of states around the country.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what can you tell us about, are you having a gubernatorial race right now?
Yes. Our governor is up against the former national chairman of the NAACP, Ben Jealous.
Yes.
Okay.
And it is expected to be a hotly contested race. I mean, they both did a lot of campaigns. A few not so nice commercials on one side. But it's a race. The polls don't close here for another 5 minutes. So we'll see what happens. A lot of folks, we had an incredible amount of folks come out and vote in the early voting week.
Mm-hmm.
Which would be, we had so many folks came out early voting, it was like in a presidential year. It was
it was a lot of people.
However, we've had some really bad weather here today, and from what I understand, of the likely voters to come out on election day, the numbers are really low.
Yeah, they're talking about right now that in the state of Maryland, overall is 10%, and in the city of Baltimore right now it's at 18%, so hopefully in the next 5 minutes, some more voters will get out.
Okay. I know you guys aren't the Weather Channel, and I don't expect you to be, but the storm that's going through Maryland right now, is it wide-ranging? In other words, how wide-ranging might that be, and how might it affect voting on the Eastern Seaboard?
Well, it is a rather large, severe front that's going across. And it's going across one of those special kind of angles. So the north edge, the northern edge of the storm is more east than the southern edge of the storm. It's got that angle going on.
Okay.
And it is a wide storm.
You can tell we're not meteorologists.
The storm is
the northern edge, kind of.
South. The north part of the storm would be about 2 o'clock, and the southern part would be about 7 or 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay, so how wide-ranging do you think it's going to be? Will it have? I'm kind of expecting you to prognosticate like the Weather Channel, but do you think it's going to? Obviously, it's going to have an effect in Maryland, but do you think it's going to have effect, or has already had an effect on voters on a significant portion of the East Coast?
I would say so. It reaches from, I guess parts from New York down to Virginia. It is a very long storm.
Yeah.
Okay.
There were air delays this morning. In Baltimore, a couple of polling centers didn't have power.
Yeah. So it's been a very interesting day when, as far as getting into the polls and people getting there. One of the things we did hear was that because of the weather, lift and different rideshare companies are giving discounts and free rides to the polls for certain people because the weather has been so bad.
Elderly and seniors particularly.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's a good job. We're going to have to cut for a break in about 2 more minutes. So in that amount of time, from your area and around in Maryland, are you guys hearing any returns or any indicators? I know it's really early, and I don't expect you to be weathermen or pollsters or anything like that, but are you getting any information back to indicate pretty much anything at all at this point?
Well, so interestingly enough, as we were saying, the polls here in Maryland have not closed yet, but we've been watching governor's races around the country. And some of the numbers are really starting to come in. Some of the polls started closing at 6 o'clock. So the ones that closed at 6, 7, and 7:30, they're starting to put some numbers in. And it's very interesting from what we're seeing so far in Florida. DeSantis is not in the lead.
Uh-oh. Because I was just talking about some of the things with regard to Andrew Gillum down there.
Yeah.
And Gillum is in the lead at the moment.
He's at 50%, and DeSantis right now is at 48%.
48.6, but only 30% of the returns are back in yet, so of course that can change. In Georgia, Kemp is at 66.3%, Abrams is at 33.2%, but they're very early in getting their data back in. In New Hampshire, Kelly is at 63, and Sununu is at 45. Sununu is the Republican incumbent, and he's down at the moment. And in Ohio, we've got Corddry and DeWine. Corddry is up at 52.6%, and DeWine is at 45%. So it's still early in the numbers coming in. There have been a lot of issues at polling centers all across, which could have some significant post-election day ramifications. I can tell you from here in Maryland, we had polling centers that were supposed to open at 7 that somebody forgot to make sure they have ballots.
Oh, crap. Okay. All righty. Well, folks, I'm going to have to wrap up the show, but Shannon and Mike, we are going to have you back a little bit later on because we're going to transition now over to the SHR Media Special Report, Midterms 2018. So, Shannon and Mike, thanks for dropping in to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, and you will be back, folks. And thanks, you will be reappearing, folks. You have been listening to BZ on the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Right after this, after I wrap up the show, we will start the SHR Media Special Report, Midterms 2018. But before I go, you got to hear this, of course, right?
Monsieur has been locked!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. Didn't get too many people in here, but hey, it's a strange time. I was like 5 hours off. But you can listen to me in podcast. If you're listening live, thanks for listening live. Thanks for being in chat. Apologies to Spreaker, but I think Spreaker, those people that wanted to listen and to be in the chat room and just listen only instead of watch, I think Spreaker kind of found itself overloaded. Now, I will be back this Thursday. Today is Tuesday, November 6th. Thursday, I'm going to have a story to tell. Now, what kind of a story I'm going to have to tell? I don't think we're going to find out until tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, perhaps even tomorrow evening, perhaps even beyond that. Folks, thanks for listening. Thanks for being in chat. There'll be a brief pause, and then we'll be starting with the SHR Media Special Report, Midterms 2018. God bless, take care, be safe. Come listen to me back on Thursday.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep. night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob. Go to sleep.
Good night, and good luck.